I'd be lying if I didn't admit to really being pretty overwhelmed right now. There is so much to do. But the backyard is a little bit more manageable and certainly tidier than the front yard. So right now I'm just going to try to compartmentalize as I attack one task after another and eat that elephant one bite at a time, because there is so much to do, much more than there is to do in a normal fall. So this is the bed I'm tackling today. And most of you, I hope, have seen it when it was in its glory, when it was beautiful and all of this stuff was upright and in bloom. But right now it's definitely past its prime, and I'm getting it ready for winter and for a little bit of bulb planting, and also for some seedling detection of what has come up in here and if I want to plant a few more seeds. So starting out, what I'm going to do, you may have not realized it, but Stuart, if you can show, this is one of my very valuable black pots I was telling you about that you may have not even noticed was back here, that this stuff was in a pot. And I'll try to remember to put a link to the black pot video below, why I find these so valuable. But what I'm doing is going ahead and cutting back these mums right now. Now some perennials, you have leeway to go ahead and cut them back now to kind of tidy up your fall garden. Others you don't want to do that to. Perovskia comes to mind, some others that you may not want to cut back. And obviously anything you don't want to cut back because of some food for the birds, pollinators, etc. But these are just mums. And if I cut them back and if it gets really, really cold and they expire from the cold, I'm not going to cry too much. But I'm doing this now for a couple of reasons. Anything that's in here, I'm going to cut back. And then I'm going to show you what I'm going to do with this greenery that I'm taking off. And I'll introduce you to my new toy, which I'm really excited about. So I'm cutting these back. Now I'm doing this because, Stuart, if you will show everyone, you can see there's a lot of planting area in here. And what I'm going to do is cut this back enough so that I can see where that planting area is, and then I'm going to plant some bulbs in here. So this will give me the exposure I need to know where I have planting areas so I can tuck in some bulbs. And normally I put container plantings of bulbs in the garage to overwinter, but these pots are so large that they kind of just replicate conditions of being in the ground. So I'm not going to worry about that too much. So I'm going to go ahead and clean out these big pots. So there's one there. I'm also, like this dragon heart, I think that's its name. I'm not always good about knowing the names of things. But I'm going to cut back this stuff also, this fleshy greenery, because I want to see what's going on underneath all of this foliage. And this is one from experience. I know I can cut back, and I can cut it back pretty hard. Now what I hope to discover under here, if not under here, underneath some of my other plants, is the presence of maybe some poppy seedlings. And I don't see any under here right now, but I definitely saw some on the west end of the bed. And that's what I'm looking for. And I want to kind of uncover them a bit so that they get some sunlight, that they put on some growth, and they're not crowded out by other things. The other thing that that's going to tell me is if I saw some seedlings down there but I didn't see any seedlings down here, I might throw some more poppy seeds out. And hopefully they will germinate and put on some foliage and then bloom next spring. So I'm also going to do and cut back really anything that's just overgrown. These mums are pretty much past their prime and they're lying on their sides because of the ice storm, okay? So all of that stuff, I've more than filled my basket. I'm gonna relegate to my new toy. Okay, this stuff here, this is another large pot. And the reason, again, that I like to put pots in beds is because it gives me color and height and immediate maturity up high. And it can kind of mature and get dramatic over time. So I've got some things in here. I've got some annuals. Actually, that is a hibiscus I'm going to take out. This gorgeous. I'm going to do a video, you guys, on my favorite things from this growing season. And oh my gosh, I've said it a million times. I'm going to say it 1,000,001 times. I love this Chef's Choice rosemary. Look at that mound right there. Look at this mound right here. It just keeps getting bigger and bigger. And so far, it has overwintered just beautifully. And I love that kind of Mediterranean vibe it gives my garden. So here's another example of another pot that I will plant with some bulbs and maybe some other spring color, maybe some violas or something. So I'll just clean out all this debris, and you can see it's pretty quick work. And these are things that make me feel as if I have an element of control over so much that is not controllable for me right now. I am so impatient to have all of that debris gone from my front yard. Stuart, what did you tell me the other day? You didn't even recognize my house when you drove up because you weren't even used to seeing the facade of my house, and much less in that much sunlight. So it's let's just say it's going to be a kind of a culture shock as I acclimate to different conditions. So I'm going to do that same thing up and down the bed. Now, if we can come over here, Stuart, if you can back up without hurting yourself. I cut back my sedum autumn joy, or whatever sedum it was. I loved it. And I'm going to cut back some of these other plants. Then back in there, you can see that I've got, actually this was a form of kind of a chive or an allium where you see all of that slender foliage back in there. I'm going to dig some of that out. But I'm also hunting in here for some of those poppy seedlings. And this is one of those skills as a gardener you really want to develop. And that's identification of different kinds of seedlings. So I've got some coming up in here, and I'm trying to determine, okay, right over here. Stuart, if you can see that right there. Okay, that is a poppy seedling. And that is a poppy seedling. And that is a poppy seedling. Don't hurt yourself, Stuart. Okay, so those are seedlings, and I want to make sure that as I cut back things that I don't really do any damage to Stuart or to the garden. I also have a bunch of tall phlox in here that's got powdery mildew. I'm going to go ahead and cut that back really hard, clean that up, dig out what I don't want, namely those little alliums that have become kind of invasive. And then I'm going to take some of my beautiful new leaf mulch, which I'm going to show you in a minute how I make my recipe, and I'll probably cover this area in some of that leaf mulch. So I'm just going to take a section of the garden at a time, probably about 1/4 of this border at a time, tackle it, then move on to the next area. Now, obviously you guys can tell that this arborvitae just kind of, well, it took a hit. So I'm going to have to stake that and get it back and upright, and I will. And then when this brown turkey fig dies all the way down, I am probably going to try to next spring dig it out and replace it someplace else. So I'm basically just going to do a cleanup of this bed, get this bed in order, get it ready for spring so I at least feel like I've got one thing done. Now, before we leave this area and I show you where I'm going to take this stuff, I want to show you something just really spectacular. Now, Stuart actually gasped when he saw this. And I have to tell you, you guys, I've had this in a pot for a long time, and this is the first time that this burning bush, look at that, has turned this color. And look at those wonderful trunks. So this is an example of just patience, of waiting for something to get mature. And believe me, if my garden weren't in such a state of mayhem, I would move this as a focal point where I could really see it all of the time. Right now, things are so chaotic. I am just enjoying this little jewel at the end of my garden, but I absolutely love it. Another thing that took a hit in the ice storm was my beloved dovecote. So I'm going to have lots of things to report to the insurance company. And I've got lots of things to cut back in here still. But now I want you guys to come with me. So come on. Stuart's pointing in that direction. So let me stop and just get a handful of some of this stuff. So what I'm doing, you guys, I think I told you or shared with you that I was going to get a new leaf mulcher. And I did, and today is the first day that I've got it put together and operational. Now I'm just going to add this loud noise. I have to say it's louder than I would like, and it will just add to the cacophony of different kinds of power equipment that are being used right now to clean up my neighborhood, whether it's tree grinders or power blowers, power washers. There's all sorts of machinery that's in use right now. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some of this still vegetative green growth, which is a form of nitrogen, and I'm going to add it to my brown leafy stuff. So that then when I mulch it all together, I have not just leaf mulch, but I also have kind of a combination of nitrogen and carbon. The nitrogen that's in this fleshy green foliage, and then the carbon that's in all of the leafy foliage. So this is how it works. I'll put a link to this mulcher below. And my friend Beth said she has one, and she said she had a complaint about it, and I can't remember what it was, but I'll check it out and share that with you in the future. But it gets great reviews. And it's very easy to put together, no tools required, and you just kind of toss things in. Now, ideally, you have it on beforehand, and normally, where did I put? I do have safety glasses. Normally, I put my safety glasses on first. So I'm just going to look away. And voila, what it can do is convert 10 bags of leaves. You just put a leaf bag on the bottom. Can you see that through there? That leaf bag on the bottom, and it converts, I think it's a 10-to-1 ratio, so 10 bags of leaves turn into 1. And this, you guys, is going to be gold. It's going to be gold in my compost tumbler, and I can even use it immediately as mulch for lots of my things that need protection over the winter. It will be a nice mulchy blanket. So that's what's going on in my garden today. A lot of things on my to-do list, my very, very long to-do list. But I'll be out here playing with my new toy until I see you tomorrow.